Thank you. There we go. Okay, we got some really good questions. I'm going to touch on a few of them. And some of them are going to take a lot of in-depth stuff, and so I would encourage you. In fact, I'm going to use one of the questions tonight to tantalize you to come to the Daniel study. The first question I want to answer is the one I promised I'd answer last night, and that is, what does this verse mean? To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. Actually, more than two people asked this question. It's a very good question. Is this not a good question? And let's go to the text, and let's read the text first, okay? It's in 2 Corinthians, and this is Paul speaking. It says, we're confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. Wherefore we labor that, whether present or absent, we may be accepted of him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad. Number one, what is the context? Context again, judgment. Correct? The context is judgment. Now, in order to get a real clear explanation of this, we have to go back to the beginning of 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And we're going to look at the Good News Bible, and it's very clear what he's talking about here. And I'm really glad that this question was asked, because it cleared some things up in my mind that I thought I had already known. It actually made it a lot clearer. Let's look at it here. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 1, it says, we know that when this tent we live in, and what is that tent? Our body here on earth is torn down, God will have a house in heaven for us to live in, a home he himself has made, which will last forever. Now, what is this home he's talking about? Notice, and now we sigh. So great is our desire that our home which comes from heaven should be put on over us. So we have this old tent, but we're waiting for this new tent. Are you with me? By being clothed with it, we shall not be without a body. So he's saying we're either clothed with the old tent or clothed with the new tent. We shall not be without a body. You with me? Okay. While we live in this earthly tent, here we go again, we groan with a feeling of oppression. Anybody groaning with a feeling of oppression with this earthly tent? Nobody? Okay. It is not that we want to get rid of our earthly body, but that we want to have the heavenly one put on over us, so that what is mortal will be transformed by life. Now, what is the context again? The context is judgment. What is the context here? The heavenly one will make the mortal transformed. Right? Okay. So let's see what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15. Okay, because this is really important. He talks about this transformation and when it takes place. Listen to this secret truth, he says. We shall not all die, and in the King James Version it says, we shall not all sleep, but when the last trumpet sounds, when? When the last trumpet sounds, we shall all be changed in an instant. When does the change take place? When the last trumpet sounds. That's when that old tent gets replaced, okay? We shall all be changed in an instant, as quickly as the blinking of an eye. For when the trumpet sounds, the dead will be raised. Where are the dead? In the grave. Why are they in the grave? Because they're dead. See, it says the dead will be raised, not the living. They're dead, okay? The dead will be raised, never to die again, and we shall all be changed. For what is mortal must be changed to what is immortal. There's what Paul was talking about earlier. We're going to put on the new tent of immortality, this new body, because this old one is oppressive, okay? What is mortal must be changed into what is immortal. What will die must be changed into what cannot die. So, is anybody immortal now? No. It says when the judgment comes, that's when we will be changed into what is immortal. Are you with me? Okay. So when this takes place, and the mortal has been changed to the immortal, then the scripture will come true. Death is destroyed. Victory is complete. Now, Paul follows up on this a little bit more in 2 Timothy. He says, as he's about ready to pass away, he says, I've fought the good fight. I've finished my course. I've kept the faith. He's going to die here shortly, very shortly. But what he says is, henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord will give me, which the righteous judge shall give me when? At that day. And not only to me, but to all of them who love his appearing. What's the context here? That day, his appearing. Okay? In other words, Jesus says in Revelation 22, behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according to his work shall be. What is that reward? The new tent. The new tent. And so when he says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, and someone says fell asleep maybe 4,000 years ago, how soon, in their minds, is that new tent going to come? Instantly. To be absent from this old body is to be present with the Lord with the new tent, with the new body. Instantly in your mind. Everybody with me? Okay, good. Now, we have another question. And this is the question I'm going to use to bait the hook here, because I should have called somebody because I wasn't sure, but I said, you know what, I'm going to put it up here anyway. Therefore, rejoice ye, O heavens. This was a text we used last night. And ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the who? Of the where? Of the earth and the sea. And the question is, who are these inhabitants of the sea? Good question, isn't it? Very good question. Well, it could be one of two things. It could just simply be the animals. Or, of course, as we know in the book of Revelation, the sea means something else. Remember, in Revelation 13, chapter 13, verse 1, it says, and John says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, right? Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Well, first we want to know what a beast is before we can figure out what the sea is. What do you think? Should we find out what a beast is? Okay, and well, let's look and see what there, because there's another beast comes out of the earth. Look at Revelation 13:11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. So we have the earth and the sea again. But this time, it's not woe to them, it's a beast coming up out of both of them. Everybody see that? So I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now, if you come to the Daniel study and the Daniel Revelation study, which we're going to have after this, we're going to explain who the beasts are, who the dragon, who the beast that comes out of the earth that has 2 horns like a lamb and speaks like a dragon. We're going to explain all of that stuff. Okay? Now, if we go back to the book of Daniel, this is why you have to use Daniel and Revelation together, because they explain each other. Now we're going to find out what this beast is. Okay? These great beasts, which are 4, are what? 4 kings. So if the beasts are 4 kings, and the beasts are rising up out of the earth and out of the sea, it must be kingdoms rising up out of the earth and out of the sea. Are you with me? Okay, so now let's look, and we're going over this at 30,000 feet, people, so you're going to go, wow, that kind of makes sense, but I don't know how he's getting there. That's because we have to study it through from the beginning of Daniel with using the entire Bible all the way through the book of Revelation. We're just going to fly through here and bait the hook a little bit. That's all we're going to do. And he said to me, the waters which thou sawest where the horse sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. That's pretty populated, isn't it? Okay, so the sea to me would be a very populated area. I wonder what the earth would be then. Maybe an unpopulated area? If we study Revelation chapter 12, we will find out that the earth is an unpopulated area. So, when the Bible says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, it means everywhere. The populated areas, the unpopular, there is no place to hide. It's everywhere. Okay? The devil has come down everywhere. He will get you if you're hiding in the inner cities. He will get you if you are hiding way out in the boonies. The devil is everywhere. Okay? But a full study of the book of Daniel and Revelation will flesh this out to where it's undoubted, it's settled in your mind. So after we have these presentations, I encourage you to sign up for the Daniel study. We'll be doing them on Friday nights if that works for everybody, okay? And another question. Great question. Great question. Why did God put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden if he didn't want Adam and Eve to eat of it? And there's some other questions that went in this with, did he need them in order to solve the sin problem? Did he want them to sin? All these questions arise from this one question here. Now, what did we study last night? What were the devil's accusations? He said, I want to create, but you won't let me. I want worship, but you won't let me. I want to run the universe, but you won't let me. He claimed that his freedom was restricted. Are you with me? You have a child like that wants to do this, that, and the other thing. What is it? They claim that basically at the core, their freedoms are being restricted. The devil claimed his freedom was being restricted. Now, the only way God saw fit in his wisdom, the way he chose to do it, to answer that accusation was to say, okay, here's my brand new creation. Everything is very good. You say your freedom is restricted. Have Adam. He answered that accusation by demonstration. That's as good as I can answer the question. These are very deep, very good questions. But all we can do is think, what would God do? I mean, God's already done it. Obvious it was the right thing to do. What was he trying to accomplish? And that's as good as I can get with that one. But it's a very good question. You like these questions? These are very good questions, aren't they? Let's go to some facts we probably didn't know, okay? Now, we're all here because the world is messed up, are we not? We're all here because we have questions, because as we look around, we just see problem after problem after problem. Let's talk a little bit about crime, okay? And these are some astounding figures. The city of Detroit, Michigan literally looks like a war zone. And violent crime is thriving. In Detroit, car thefts are up how many percent? 83%. Robberies are up 50%. Burglaries are up 20%. And property destruction is up 42%. Now, everything I'm going to talk about here tonight is United States only, okay? Number 2, lawmakers in Illinois say that violence has become so rampant in Chicago that the National Guard needs to be sent in. In just one night, 7 people were killed and 18 were wounded, mostly by gunfire. You know, I've done a lot of bad things in a lot of shady areas. And you know, if you get out of your car and stand in the middle of Rockland and listen, you don't hear much. But if you're in Oak Park or West Sacramento and you get out and you stand and you listen, if an hour goes by, you'll hear at least one gunshot. At least one gunshot, at least in the places I used to go. So, yes, terrible. Number 3, the city of Phoenix has become a car theft capital of the world as millions of illegal aliens who can't get work have found that stealing cars can be very profitable indeed. There are approximately 12 million crimes committed in the United States every single year. That is by far the worst in the world. No other nation has more than about 6 million reported crimes per year. U.S. law enforcement authorities claim that there are now over 1 million members of criminal gangs inside the country. These 1 million gang members are responsible for up to 80% of the crimes committed in the United States each year. Now, of course, the problem is once you get in, it's very hard to get out. And so this number can do nothing but go up unless, of course, they kill themselves off. There are over 100,000 rapes in the United States every single year. That is the highest number for any of the countries in the United Nations. According to USA Today, 58% of state and local law enforcement agencies in the United States reported that violent criminal gangs were active in their areas in 2008, up 45%. It's just escalating. Do you see it's just coming apart at the seams? And the last one, of course, 1 out of every 5 people is a victim of crime in the United States. No other nation on earth has a rate that is higher. Wow. It's coming apart at the seams. And I think that's why we're all here. We have questions. Why is this happening? What's at the core? What's going on behind the scenes? So our question tonight is, can't God forgive the devil? What do you think? No way, huh? Okay. Now, in order to get to this question, in order to answer this question, we are going to go so far, seemingly so far off track that you'll think I've lost my marbles. Okay? But don't worry. We'll be right where we need to be. Okay? You will think that I've gone mad. Not gone mad, but just maybe had the wrong title to our presentation tonight. Okay? So let's look. Remember, there was a crisis in the government of God. It broke loose. In Revelation chapter 12 and verse 7, it says, "And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon." Who's the dragon? The devil. "And the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was there a place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the" what? "Accuser of our brethren." The what? "Accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before God day and night." What does he do? He accuses the brethren before God day and night. That's what he does. And he's really good at it. He's really good at it. Because he's tempted each one of us to do some really bad things. And don't you think he doesn't know what we've done? He was right there. He knows what we've done. So then we read the text again that we answered earlier. "Therefore rejoice, heavens, and you that dwell in them, but woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for that devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that his time is short." This creature now has come down as the accuser of the brethren, and he's angry. He's got great wrath. There's nothing worse than somebody that's really mad and accusing you at the same time, is there? There's nothing worse than that. Remember in Luke 10:18, Jesus himself said, "I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven." Jesus himself said that. He had to go because he didn't fit there. Okay? Now, let's review what we learned last night. Okay? Satan accused God in heaven of being a liar. Remember? Okay? He accused God in Eden of being a liar. Remember? He accused God in the book of Job of being a liar. Everybody remember, right? Now remember, we had to peel back the onion, but basically that was the claim. In other words, God said in Eden, you shall die, and the devil said, you shall not surely die. What's the underlying message? God is a liar. God says, have you considered my servant Job? Satan said, he only serves you because you give him goodies. God says, no, he loves me. Satan says, no, you're bribing him, you're lying. The underlying message is God is a liar. Okay? And he even accused Christ of being a liar and having a devil. Remember? Who did he do that through? He did that through the religious leaders of the day. They called him Beelzebub. But then God did something to say something, didn't he? What did we learn last night? He created this planet to say something, didn't he? He answered those accusations that the devil's freedom was restricted, and that that God would not share his creative abilities. Right? And did God share his creative abilities with you and me? Yes, we can procreate. So he answered those accusations when he created this planet and he created the family of human beings and allowed us to raise our children to the dictates of our own conscience, meaning that God does not restrict freedom either. Okay? So God demonstrated. Now we come to the cross. And once again, God did something to say something. Didn't he? 1 John 3:8, whoever continues to sin belongs to who? The devil. Because the devil has sinned from the very beginning. The Son of God appeared for this very reason, to destroy what the devil had done. Now, this is a big deal. Down in our planet, we just see this little thing. We see our own little lives in our little houses, and we get on our knees and we say that Jesus died to save me from my sins, and I accept that, and I know he forgives me. But this is a big deal. And I think when we step back and look at, remember, this is God's right-hand man that we're talking about here. This was God's mouthpiece. This was the being that ran the angelic host of the universe. And we're here on this small planet, kind of quarantined, if you will. And it seems like not such a big deal. But notice what the Bible says. In Colossians 1:20, through the Son, God decided to bring what? The whole universe back to himself. God made peace through his Son's blood on the cross, so brought back to himself all things, both on earth and in heaven. Now, why would he need to bring back all things? Think about it. God lost 1/3 of his children in heaven. In a perfect environment, with a perfect father, with perfect brothers and sisters, he lost 1/3 of them. So do you think the other 2/3 might have a few questions still? Like, why is my brother kicked out of heaven? You understanding? So when Jesus dies on the cross, they realized that God was telling the truth, that he would die for his creation. He could not go any farther to prove that he's telling the truth other than to die for his creation. And that brought everybody back together that was not expelled from heaven. Are you with me on this? Do you understand what I'm saying? This was a big deal. It's not just this planet. The whole universe was in disarray because of this being. And it was a mess. God won back his entire creation. He won back his entire creation. Now notice in Colossians 1:20, and having made peace, this is the King James Version again. I wanted to read both versions so that you can see that they both say the same thing. Having made peace through the blood of his cross, by him to reconcile all things unto himself. What are all things? That's all things, right? Unto himself, I say, whether they be things in earth or things in heaven. All things. To reconcile all things to himself. So that there is no doubt what God is willing to do, what he's willing to go through for you and me. He doesn't just say it. He doesn't just say, I know what's right for you. He actually demonstrates it by dying for you so that you don't have to die. That's how bad he doesn't want any of us to die. He died for us. That's as good as it gets. Remember, if God was being lied about, he needed to do something to say something. For it was by God's own decision that the Son has in himself the full nature of God. An angel couldn't do it. Another being couldn't do it. It had to be God. Why? Because the questions are about nobody else but God. God has been blamed for everything. The questions are about God. So God needed to take care of this himself. I mean, what if I said I would do something for you? And you said, well, I don't know if you'll do that. And I said, yeah, I'll do it for you. And then I send my wife over to do it. What kind of guy is that? What kind of promise is that? He said he'd come over and help. You know what I'm saying? So God, the questions were about nobody but God. And so God answered those questions personally with the hardest thing there is to do in the universe, and that is to die the second death. God offered him, now notice, Romans 3:25, God offered him so that by his blood he should become the means by which people's sins are what? Forgiven. Through their faith in him, God did this in order to demonstrate that he is righteous. He did it to demonstrate that he will always do the right thing always. Even though sometimes that right thing doesn't seem right to us, God will always do the right thing. If we could see the end from the beginning, we would agree with him. But in our finite view of life, we can't. All we can do is trust that he is righteous, and that means that he will always do the right thing. Always. In this way, God shows that he himself is righteous and that he puts right everyone who believes in Jesus. Now, I love that version. He puts right everyone who believes in Jesus. You know what it means to be put right? I know, gentlemen, you know what it means to be put right. I know exactly that you know what it means to be put right. My poor wife is rolling her eyes. She did not see this one coming. This hasn't happened in about 5 years, but every once in a while, I will open mouth and switch feet. And sometimes I say things that hurt my wife. And sometimes I don't even know that I say them until she explains to me what I said. Then I realize, yeah, you should have never said that. So what happens is the poor thing goes down the hall, closes the door, and curls up on the bed. You know, and I'm out in the front room and I'm pacing. I'm going, man, this is not good. What have I done? This is not good. I don't like this. And, you know, there's this friction and this stuff. And she's back there weeping and I'm pacing and she's weeping and I'm pacing. And there's that long hallway. I don't want to go down there. I think I'm right. Well, I know I'm wrong, but I think I'm right because, and I'm just go, you know, when you go, gentlemen, and you know you have to do it. You know you have to deal with it. It's the right thing to do. And so you go down the hall and you open the door. Go away. I need to talk to you. Go away. I don't want to talk right now. That means I want to talk. Okay? It does. And so you finally make your way over there, you know. And anyway, we find out what the problem was, how to straighten it out, how many times we must say we're sorry before we are put right with our wives. Now, I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know if it's just a guilt thing or I don't know what it is. Exactly. But gentlemen, you know what it means when she finally accepts your apology. You know exactly what it means. You can walk back down that hallway. Whew. It's not going to be right for us. Now, sometimes this goes on for 3 days before I know that I done something wrong. It builds for like 3 days. And then when I find out that I've done something wrong, I realize, oh, this went all the way back to last Thursday. Oh, my. And then, oh, that's why this happened, and that's why, and I've got to make this right. And so anyway, once it gets put right, once we are put right, it's like 1,000 pounds are lifted off your shoulders. That's what it means to be justified. You're put right. You're put back reconciled. You're as one again. Because what you did separated you. It wasn't anything that God did. It wasn't anything your wife did. It's what you did separated you. And so you need to acknowledge it. To confess simply means I agree that you're right and I'm wrong. That's a confession. See? So we confess that God's ways are right. When we sin, we confess, God, you're right. Your ways are right. My way was wrong. And when I confess that, and now we're in agreement, okay, that my way is wrong, your way is right, and now we're put right. We're reconciled. Okay? So this is what God offers us. Anytime that we do this, and we're wrong and He's right, and we want to hold out, and our hard head doesn't allow us to come to Him, and finally we say, I can't live like this, I've got to come to God and confess that He's right and I'm wrong, and once we do that, we're put right. We're put right with Him. Okay? Now, Colossians 1:21 pretty much says what I just said. At one time you were far away from God and were His enemies because of the evil things you did and thought. Why are we enemies of God? Because of the evil things we do and think. Okay? But now, by means of the physical death of His Son, God has made you His friends. We can come to Him knowing how much He loves us in order to bring you holy, pure, and faultless into His presence. Now, here's where I get in a pickle, though. Because remember, what is the devil? He's the accuser of the brethren. And why can he accuse? And how come he is so good at it? It's because he knows everything you've done. You know, you almost want to run him with a parallel with that old man that brings up those horrible things you've done at the most inopportune times in the back of your head. So how can you be brought pure and faultless into God's presence knowing what you know about yourself? Well, you say, Jesus has forgiven me. That's great. How can we do that, though? Knowing what I know about myself. And knowing that the devil knows it. And knowing that he's the accuser of the brethren and that he is going to bring it up. Let's go to Zechariah and let's see what Joshua goes through here. Because it's really interesting. In fact, the only way I'll give you a hint, can be brought pure and faultless is it has something to do with what you wear. Okay? In another vision, the Lord showed me the high priest Joshua standing before the angel of the Lord. And there beside Joshua stood who? Satan, ready to bring a what? Accusation against him. There he is, doing his job. Doing his job. The angel of the Lord said to Satan, may the Lord condemn you, Satan. May the Lord who loves Jerusalem condemn you. This man is like a stick snatched from the fire. Speaking of Joshua. Joshua was standing there wearing what? Filthy clothes. Filthy clothes. When you do something bad, do you feel clean or dirty? Dirty, huh? Filthy. The angel said to his heavenly attendants, take away the filthy clothes this man is wearing. Then he said to Joshua, I have taken away your what? Sin. So what are the filthy clothes? Sin. I have taken away your sin and will give you new clothes to wear. That sounds like a good deal, doesn't it? It sounds like a real good deal. Who plucked him out? Jesus. Who takes away his sin? Jesus. Who gives Joshua the clothes? Jesus. Is Joshua now God's friend? Yes. Who's the accuser? Who is he accusing now? He's no longer accusing God. See, he's accusing us. Remember, he accused God of being a liar, but at the cross, God did something to say something. So now the devil transfers his accusation to God's people. If I want to hurt you, all I have to do is hurt your child. God did something to say something at the cross, and so now the devil has transferred that wrath, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, because the devil has come down and has great wrath. He's the accuser of the brethren. Here he goes. He's accusing Joshua, but Jesus gets him off the hook by putting new clothes on him. There it is. Woe. That devil has come down, having great wrath. Great wrath. Now, who do you suppose is watching all this? Who is watching in the book of Job? Everyone. Will they be watching when it's my turn? When will be my turn? Have you ever wondered this? Is this real, or are we just making it up? When will be my turn? What will the courtroom look like? What will it look like? Who will plead my case? And what did the new clothes really mean? This is where the rubber meets the road. Now, Romans 4:7 says, "Blessed are they whose iniquities are," what's the word? Forgiven. And whose sins are what? Covered. But wait a minute. I thought that the filthy clothes were taken away. This says they're covered. Let's look at another text. Thou hast forgiven the iniquity of thy people. Thou hast covered all their sin. Okay, let's look at another one. Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. There we have it again. Psalms 32:1. So what is going on here? What is God doing? You know, when this is a mat slab we did at a prison, but this is my foreman Gary, my other foreman Mike, and that's myself there. And you notice when we wear vests, and in the heat in the summertime, the vests are really cumbersome and they're troubling. And I don't like to wear them that much, but when you're out with equipment and it's OSHA regs now, you just got to wear them. But one day, not too long ago, I was at a Mexican restaurant, okay, right over here in Rockland, and they make the refried beans like almost like soup. You know what I'm saying? You like anybody like wet? Yeah, I like that. So anyway, I'm eating rice and beans, and I have a white shirt on. Do I need to say any more? Huh? And so, I'm all done, and I look down, and it is everywhere. And I got to go back to work. I couldn't wait to get to that truck to get that vest on. You know what I'm saying? But you know what? I knew I was still dirty. The angel said to his heavenly attendants, "Take away the filthy clothes this man is wearing. I have taken away your sin and will give you new clothes to wear." What does that mean? The only way we can learn this is to go to what Jesus said in Matthew 18. He says, "The kingdom of heaven is like this. Once there was a king who decided to check on his servants' accounts. He had just begun to do so when one of them was brought in who owed him millions of dollars. The servant did not have enough money to pay his debt, so the king ordered him to be sold as a slave with his wife and his children and all that he had in order to pay the debt." This guy's in a world of hurt. No? He is in a world of hurt. Can he pay the debt? No. There is no way. He is in a no-win situation. Folks, We are in a no-win situation without Jesus. The servant fell on his knees before the king. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay you everything. The king knew he couldn't pay. Jesus knows we can't pay. The king felt sorry for him, so he forgave him the debt and let him go. What a nice thing to do. He had compassion on him. But notice, then the man went out and met one of his fellow servants who owed him a few dollars. He grabbed him and started choking him. Pay back what you owe me, he said. His fellow servant fell down and begged him. Sound familiar? Be patient with me and I will pay you back. But he refused. Instead, he had him thrown into jail until he should pay the debt. When the other servants saw what happened, they were very upset and went to the king and told him everything. So he called the servant in. You worthless slave, he said, I forgave you the whole amount, just because you asked me to. No other reason. You should have had mercy on your fellow servant, just as I had mercy on you. The king was very angry, and he sent the servant to jail to be punished until he should pay back the whole amount. And Jesus concluded, that is how my Father in heaven will treat every one of you unless you forgive your brother. What's the words? From the heart. From the heart. The only way I can describe this is like this. This is, some of you might remember, this is Allison and Jason Anders. And Allison is a very, very bright little girl. Very sharp. We became best friends for the period of about 3 years. But Allison knew, she perceived that I was a social amoeba. And that I had a hard time getting close to children. Okay? Because I'd spent all my life in a closet smoking drugs. And so I was afraid of children. I did not know how to deal with them. Guys for a joke would come and put a baby in my arms and then run away giggling. And I'd sit there like this, just petrified. But this was reality, okay? It's reality. So Allison, she picked up on this. And she would buy me little trinkets and draw me little things and come, and I would be sitting on the couch and she'd come and she'd stand right by me. And I'd go, what are you doing, Al? I'm breaking down barriers, Mr. Rich. I'm breaking down barriers. And this went on for a year and a half, as she got closer and closer and closer. And finally, one day, Allison's efforts paid off. And they took a picture. The angels were singing hallelujah and everything. It was a great day. Her efforts paid off. What she did something to my heart. Okay? It did something. Her efforts did something. Has Christ's efforts paid off in your heart? Has that forgiveness done something? That's the question. The man in the parable, the forgiveness didn't do anything. He was forgiven. Was he not? He was forgiven, but the forgiveness didn't do anything. This is from one of my favorite books, Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing. God's forgiveness is not merely a judicial act by which he sets us free from condemnation. It is not only forgiveness for sin, but reclaiming from sin. It is the outflow of redeeming love that transforms the heart. That forgiveness must do something. That's when the filthy clothes are taken away. What's our problem? We have a heart problem, don't we? We have a heart problem. Revelation 3:15 says, I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I would that you were cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew you out of my mouth. Because you say, I'm rich and increased in goods and have need of nothing, and know that thou art wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and what? Naked, no clothes, no clothes. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, buy new clothes, that thou may be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness does not appear. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. Interesting. So, the only way is to get the new clothes, but you have to be able to see too. Why does it say that you need to see? Now, after I had done this act of messiness, I could hardly wait to get home and get that shirt in the washing machine before my beautiful wife saw what I did to the shirt. Okay? I could hardly wait. See, when Jesus covers us with his righteousness, we can hardly wait to please him. Are you with me? It does something to us. Now, my father, he invited Susan and I to live out at that property back in 1998. And so we moved out there, and every Wednesday the garbage man comes, okay? And we take our garbage cans down. And every Wednesday afternoon when I came home from work, my garbage can would not be at the road anymore. It would be back at the house. Because Dad had a golf cart, and he would go down to the road after the garbage man dumped the garbage, and he'd pick up the garbage can, and he'd grab onto it, and he'd drive his golf cart, just kind of like that. I did that to show you what he does. And he'd drive his golf cart, and he'd drive it back to my house, and he'd set it up, and then he'd go back up, and he'd get his, and he'd grab onto it, and he'd drive down, and he'd set it back every Wednesday. I would take it out, and when I came home, it wouldn't be at the road anymore. It'd be back at my house. And then all of a sudden, when he got sick, year after year after year, I was amazed he still did this. But then one Wednesday, I came home, and the garbage can was on the road. And I knew he didn't have much time left. And he died 2 weeks later. He was unable to get to the garbage can. Now, the point of the story is I began taking the garbage can back. Okay? But I did it a different way. Okay? I did it a different way. I didn't grab onto it like this and take it home, because Susan tried that once. It beat the side of the truck all up. It's not good. And but I do it a different way. You see? I do it this way here. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So, now, one morning at 5:30 in the morning, I'm leaving for work. And I look in my mirror, and here's Susan running after me, yelling and screaming, and I'm almost pulled out on the driveway, and she finally stops. I go, what's going on? What's going on? She goes, the garbage can. It's still hooked on the truck. I had pulled in the night before and got busy on the phone, got out, went into the house, forgot all about it. Backed up, took off, and it stayed on there. And she saw it. Now, she could see it. Anybody who was on the road could see it. Who was the only one that couldn't see it? Lest the shame of thy nakedness anoint thine eyes with eye salve, though thou mayest see. God does not want us pulling out on the highway with all of our garbage. He wants that wiped away. But the only way to get rid of the garbage is to give it to him. His forgiveness must do something to us so that we don't pull out on the road with all of our garbage. We're the only ones that won't see it. Everybody else will see it. Thy shame of thy nakedness. Does that make sense? So, here's the key. Here's the key. When that devil is accusing us, Do you want Jesus to say that you're forgiven? Or do you want him to say that you're changed? The devil has nothing in me. I'm a changed person. You understanding what I'm saying? If we're changed, the devil will have nothing in you. He will have nothing in you. Forgiveness is great, but it has to do something. So, our question tonight is, can't God forgive the devil? Yes, he can. The problem is, the devil does not want to change. You understanding what I'm saying? In Christ's time, there were people that claimed to believe in God, but they did not want to change. The devil believes and trembles. Sin has changed the devil beyond repair. And that's why the Bible continually reiterates the danger that the wages of sin is death. Sin is a health issue. It causes brain damage. God does not have a problem forgiving us. We have a problem accepting that forgiveness and allowing that forgiveness to change us. When God says at the end of time, let him who is holy stay that way, and let him who is unholy stay that way, it's not God just declaring it because he looked at his watch. Those that are holy and stay that way, the forgiveness has done something. Those who are not have rejected God, and now they're beyond repair. Could God forgive? Can God forgive the devil? Yes, but he's beyond repair. God does not want any of us to go beyond repair. He doesn't. It's not God's forgiveness that's the problem. It's our heart that's the problem. Who plucked you out? Who takes away your sin? Who gives you the clothes? Are you now God's friend? He has forgiven you. Has it done something to you? It's a wonderful thing he's done, isn't it?